Bienvenidex to Merendiando! And today is such a special episode because we had a chance to talk to Ophira Calof.
Ophira is a theater creator, writer, performer, producer, a beautiful opera singer, a wonderful human being who has an upcoming show.
Yeah, literally Titanium coming to Next Stage on January. Please be sure to check it out. It sounds like an amazing, amazing show.
Yeah, you'll hear all about it in this episode. Because in this episode, we talk about the show. We talk about creating theater for all different kinds of bodies and all different kinds of people. Especially the disabled community. And we also shout out to Lizzo, so you should probably listen so that you can hear us talk about that.
Yeah, and we shot this episode on a Taco Tuesday, so we had amazing tacos from Como en Casa.
Very tasty. They were big, generous tacos, and mine had nopales in it, and I really liked the beans.
So grab a taco, sit back, relax, and have a listen. Welcome to Merendiando! And today is really special because it's Taco Tuesday.
It is literally a Tuesday and we are literally eating tacos.
And you know what's the best part of this?
What?
We are here with Ophira.
We're here with Ophira Calof.
Ophira Calof.
Wow, what a gift. We're very excited about it.
I'm very excited to be here.
Ophira, now that we have you here, please tell us a little bit about you and how amazing you are.
Yes, please.
Ooh, pressure. Well, I am a writer, performer, and producer here in Toronto. I am disabled, and a lot of my work really explores illness and disability and various intersections with those identities. And I co-created the sketch comedy show Generally Hospital.
Oh dear, that's amazing. That's an amazing title.
Thank you. And I am in charge of the Real Abilities Film Festival comedy programming, and my solo show, Literally Titanium, is going to be premiering at the Next Stage Festival this January.
Yeah.
And we will all be there.
Literally Titanium. We're very excited to talk to you about this show. So tell us about Literally Titanium. How did the show start?
Literally Titanium started as a bit of a thought experiment. I realized that anytime I talk about myself, I talk about like, oh, you know, my body just like doesn't want to function today. Or, oh, my body's like this, my body's like that. And I realized that was a little bit of an interesting thing. My body's so central to me, as it is for all of us. Mm-hmm. And especially with things like accessibility and dealing with the medical system, it's very central in my day-to-day life. So I wondered, if I talked about my body all the time and complained about it, what would it have to say about me? So I started creating a show that was from the point of view of my body. And because I quite enjoy comedy and music, those feature prominently throughout the show.
Oh my God.
As I kind of deconstruct, it's structured as a comedic cabaret of how my body feels about me and the life we've lived together.
I love that.
So you, because I know you, you started this at Buddies.
Yes.
So it started as a 10, 15-minute piece?
Yeah, so the original idea of it, I sort of presented as 10 minutes at the U of T Foot Festival. And
What does that stand for again?
It is the Festival of Original Theater.
Okay, yeah, at the university. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a cabaret evening there, and I just sort of tested out the vague idea, and then brought that in my submission to the Buddies Emerging Creators Unit, where it became fleshed out to a 20-minute piece there. And now it has become almost an hour long. Ooh. So it's growing.
And you said it has music and comedy. So, I mean, let's talk about that. Because, like, I hear that you are a opera professional. Is that what's happening?
Ooh. Well, I trained in opera for most of my life.
Yeah.
I guess would be the most accurate way to put it. And I went to university for opera performance. So originally, comedy wasn't really a part of my artistic practice. It was mostly opera. And then today, I don't really practice opera professionally, but I incorporate it here and there into my work.
What was your voice range? Like, what was your type?
Oh, definite soprano.
Yay!
Probably.
Soprano power!
Yay!
Also soprano.
Amazing.
Yeah, so you did opera for that. That's amazing. And so then what brought comedy into your sphere?
So when I was in university studying opera performance, I started developing symptoms. So I have a connective tissue disorder that I had my whole life, but it got a lot worse and really started affecting me during my university years. But the thing about the arts is that, or at least my experience of the arts, was that you have this mindset of pushing through and really committing to overcoming, staying with your craft. So I got to the point where I could barely hold my head up, but I still, for some reason, was like, no, I can do this. I have to do this. And ended up falling on stage during an opera. It was very dramatic. I was playing a nun who was getting beheaded in the French Revolution. And then,
As you do.
As one does in opera. And yeah, I fell on stage, and that just really solidified that the structure of the program and the structure of opera just was not exactly compatible with my body at that point in time. And so then as time went on and I got diagnosed, I started wearing a neck brace, using a wheelchair, and began to sing again. I found ways that my body could support sound again. But I realized that no one would cast me. There aren't really many roles, and especially in a field like opera that really looks for authenticity in casting and more traditional outlooks. There's not exactly a character in an opera who wears a neck brace or who uses a power wheelchair. So I started creating my own content because I wanted it to exist in the world, and I wanted opportunities for me to perform it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The words like authenticity in casting is very interesting to me. Where are those from?
Yeah, I'm trying to be polite when I say it, but
What is that?
Opera is a very, and I think not just limited to opera, but even in opera specifically, I wasn't even allowed to wear my glasses on stage because in the 18th century, they didn't wear glasses. So there's this really big insistence on recreating something exactly. In opera, you breathe when you're supposed to. Like, there are specific moments in the music. And in some ways, like, I do think there's something beautiful about bringing something very carefully crafted to life. But there kind of wasn't space for me in it. Because the people who wrote those operas and the stories those people were about are very specific, either it's sort of, a cis-het man's point of view, and their point of view of other folks. So if there is a disabled character in opera, they're usually evil, or they overcome their disability by the end of the opera. It's not in ways that are authentic to lived experience, and so it makes it very incompatible then with lived experience.
That makes so much sense.
I want to go back to General Lee Hospital because I remember when I met you, you were just rehearsing for it, and it was like this fun thing that you brought some friends together, and then it blew up into an amazing thing. So how did General Lee Hospital start, and did you imagine how far it was gonna go?
I had zero concept. General Lee Hospital started when I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and one of my friends came to visit me, and I was just telling her about all of the ridiculous things that were happening. My roommates were these very very interesting characters with, like ringtones and family drama, and there was a whole world happening in there. And I said, like, oh, I wish I could make a show about this. Like, I feel like there's a sketch show here. And she was like, yeah, so do it. Like, we can do it. No problem.
Sometimes you need that friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was like, oh, no one will be interested about comedy in a hospital. Like, that's not a thing. And I guess it was. The cast was amazing. We really just, like, created it together. And we're trying to do things that made us laugh and made us have fun. And then had a moment of complete terror the night before we opened. Our opening song is like this jazzy number called like Everybody's Gonna Die.
Sounds dark.
Yeah, but like we were very cheerful about it, of being like, don't even worry, like we're all gonna die, like it's fine, no stress. And we had this moment of terror of being like, oh my goodness, like we find this funny, but will an audience, and will they even come? And what was amazing is not only did they come, they also really seemed to enjoy it and really reached out to us afterwards. And we also seemed to tap into a little bit of a newer audience because we added in a bunch of access features into Sketch. We had a relaxed performance, an audio described performance, and an ASL interpreted performance. And it was really incredible to see community members from each of the communities that those measures served come out and support the show and be a part of that festival community.
I remember watching the show also and doing shows with you, how you also implement your chair, even like it even feels like a character itself, which I always find really amazing. Like on General Hospital, there were so many like choreo with the movement that your chair can do that I was like, this is amazing. Like it plays so many other things than just helping you move.
Yeah. I always try in my work to show an audience just how cool my chair is.
It's cool.
Right?
It's cool.
I tried to jump in the back once, but it didn't work.
It was a little risky. But yeah, it elevates, it tilts back, the legs come up. To me, my wheelchair has enabled me to perform. So I'm ambulatory, like I can walk bits, and I do within my apartments, but I can basically like walk enough to get out of my building before I'm at the point where it really starts to interfere with my ability to function. So not exactly great for performing a full show on stage. Whereas in my chair, I'm fully supported. I can zoom around. I can do all sorts of things. And I really like sharing that with an audience because I think a lot of people see a wheelchair as like a sad thing. There are words like wheelchair bound, which is like, oh no, like I'm stuck in this chair. Whereas for me, my wheelchair is this really beautiful thing that allows me to do what I love.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like this very slick, like black, shiny kind of number.
It's called Stormtrooper.
It's called Stormtrooper. That's it. You're
like,
winning.
That's the brand. It's
okay, I was like...
I didn't name it. Like, the name of the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. So now you're working on this solo show. Literally Titanium, yeah. It incorporates all these things. So that sounds really, really cool. And who wrote the music for it?
So we're using existing songs through Literally Titanium. It spans, there's a bit of opera, a bit of musical theater, more than a little bit of like 80s music, because that seems to be a thing that I'm drawn to.
Love it.
And some more contemporary stuff too. Yeah, I really wanted to use existing songs but reframe them in a way that kind of made sense for me and my body.
And how is it to be a part of the Next Stage Festival lineup?
Oh, it's very exciting. Nerve-wracking. It's such a cool festival. There's some amazing artists. One of the things that we're really trying to do with Literally Titanium is create sort of a disability-centered space and see how it's possible to do that within sort of a broader, more structured theater festival. So there's a lot of experimenting happening, both in shaping the script. We're really looking to have the script be informed from a disabled perspective. I'm going to be like taking breaks throughout the show and getting some water. Every single performance is a relaxed performance where the audience will be free to come and go as they need to use the washroom, stretch, move around, which I kind of established at the top of the show. And so it's really exciting to work with Next Stage and kind of see within a festival that is like, it has to be structured because there's so many shows, to see what we can do within our space to really open it up to a disabled audience who maybe engages with content a bit differently.
Yeah, because I mean, something I've been thinking about quite a bit is like, yeah, there's structure, but there's so much structure in what you're saying too. It's just like a different structure. And it's maybe a little bit subversive to like the things that we're used to engaging with in like major or mainstream art. I don't, like the idea of like it's starting right at 2:00 and ending right at 3:15. I mean, is pretty hopeful even for like people who like to be on time, because like theater generally starts whenever it wants to start. But I don't know. There's so much. I personally find a lot of like joy in seeing work that is like human. You know what I mean? Like caring for the body. And I find that relaxed performances really do that. Instead of like shock value because like you have all the money to put the projections, like okay, but yeah, like caring about the people who are actually in the audience. That's like, seems like that is what a big part of my experience of being in relaxed performances and stuff like that.
And making it accessible, but in a way that it's not like it's accessible, but inviting. Like, it's like, it's safe. Just come, we'll have a blast. If you feel like you need to pee at any moment, yay, you can do it. Like,
yeah. I mean, theater's supposed to be enjoyable overall. I really take issue with the idea that anyone should be suffering for their art. So I don't think that performers should be in a position to be suffering. And I don't think that we should make our audience suffer in any way or, have to put themselves in positions that are unsafe for them or really cause, like that physical discomfort. I don't think that, at least for me in the way I practice, I don't really see a reason for that. So as much as possible to create just sort of that low stakes environment of we're all here to connect with each other in some way, shape, or form. We're here to share a moment together. So let's do that.
Yeah.
And talking about making your shows accessible or providing more like show descriptions and ASL, how do you negotiate with the companies? Like, how much is you trying to put this and the company help you? Because I know also when companies are trying to do their shows more accessible, it's also about the money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what they say.
Yeah. But like that you have experienced a little bit more, like how is it managed?
Yeah, it is. I'm not going to say that it's simple or easy. With something like Next Stage, there's sort of this, the work that's happening on our production side and then also work that's happening on Next Stage as they're trying to really bring a lot of these elements to the festival as a whole. So there's a lot of back and forth in between what we're trying to establish for our specific show experience and then what they can support as a broader festival. In general, I think that the more companies that make this commitment, the easier the process will get. Mm-hmm. Most of the work on my end with companies has been a lot of education and a lot of just like figuring out details that once they're figured out, For example, Generally Hospital was the first closed audio described show at Fringe in Toronto. And then now at Next Stage, 2 different shows are going to be audio described. And the process for doing it is a lot more streamlined because they've had that chance to work it out. So while it took a lot of time and effort with Generally Hospital, it then becomes a lot simpler going forward. So I think there's also access is such a complex, multi-layered thing. Like even little things. For me, I check in with the festival about seats, whether they have armrests and what the measurements are, because different people, like for example, from the fat community or for a variety of reasons, that makes a difference as to both their experience and whether or not they can come. And it's such a simple thing for a theater to just say, like, these are the chairs we have, and to see if they have any other options if those chairs don't work for folks. But you have to know to put that information out there. You have to know that somebody might be looking for it.
Well, it seems like it's a lot, and just with the example of the Fringe Festival, like your show introduced that new concept. It seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of work for it to be I guess for the lack of any other word coming to my brain right now, like a pioneer. Yeah, it seems like a lot of work. Did you sign up for it? Do you like to do it?
I joked with, I recently did a show that was a lineup of all disabled performers, and I joked that we all in our own sort of artistic practices ended up as like reluctant trailblazers. Like we were all like, ugh, do we have to?
Stormtrooping through the trail.
I know, such intense imagery. We're like, yeah, it's a lot of work. But I think for me, at least at this moment in my practice, as much as it like sometimes really frustrates me, and I feel like this is work that everyone can be doing, so it would be nice for us to share it all together. I also do feel equipped to do this work at this point in time, and I believe that it's important work to happen. So it's kind of, I fluctuate in between going like, it would be nice if this wasn't me, and also like, why hasn't this happened before? A lot of this is like fairly easy to start thinking about and developing that framework. But then the other side of me feels, at least like it's a really wonderful feeling when I create a show and audience members come out and like connect who maybe haven't had the chance to really feel safe in a theater space before.
Well, you don't have to answer this, but I'm wondering, like, given your experiences of having to like set these new boundaries and introduce these new techniques, is there anything that would make it easier for you, for people who are not in the disabled community or differently able community? Like, what would be something that you'd like to see more of from them?
Ooh, that is a great question.
From us.
I mean, allyship in general is such a powerful thing. Right now for Next Stage, 2 of my friends, Alia Razul and Sabrina Friedman, who were both part of Generally Hospital, are helping to produce, and they're producing literally Titanium, which has been an incredible experience to just have that tangible support to help work through these issues as they come up. The biggest thing is listening, and it's like active listening. Often I feel like I'm in a position of trying to convince folks in theater that access is important and that making change will help everyone. So I think the easiest thing for me is when someone approaches me and says, hey, I know this is important, and maybe offers, to pay me to consult, or to is looking for recommendations for other community consultants, with the idea that, like, yes, this is a priority, as opposed to we like build a whole festival or we build a show and then afterwards are like, oh, whoops, accessibility, we forgot about that. Because when it's just accepted as an important part of the process the whole way through, it makes it so much easier.
Totally. I mean, there's so many things I could say to that. I think that's really great. Thank you for sharing that. I think there's so much about the body that is wrapped up in capitalism. I dropped it. I said it.
Yep.
So it's like, it's like if you can't function this one way, you're not valuable. And it's so painful and stupid. So I feel like if you create like a group experience that embraces like different types of value, I'm putting air quotes around it, like it really, some people are gutturally opposed to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where conversations about cost come up a lot, and just the idea of, is it worth it? But then we end up in situations where we don't even think about it because we don't see it or consider it. I fully agree. The concept of value for a body, and I, as someone who like grew up, at least believing myself to be able, like that was my understanding of myself growing up, until my symptoms progressed to a point that I kind of had to grapple with it. When I first started contemplating the word disability and disabled as my word, I was like, oh, no, that's not me. Like, that's fine. Like, people are disabled and, like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being disabled. But, like, I'm not disabled. I do things. Like, I contribute. I have value. Like, I'm not disabled. But, like, if you're disabled, that's fine. It's just not me. Which was so much internalized ableism, because I really equated what my body could do to how I'd be valued, which is, it's very sad. It's kind of what the show's about, a little bit, literally titanium. But I think that the more, especially in the arts, like the arts, theoretically, the foundation of it is that we value the stories we can share. We value the perspectives and emotions and experiences that we can bring and share with each other. And that's a human thing. That's not a how many hours can you stay in rehearsal, or like, can you climb 3 flights of stairs? Those things have nothing to do with each other, or at least ideally they shouldn't. Yeah.
Totally.
You're so talented. I love you. I was just thinking that because you do a lot, like you do comedy, you sing, you're an improviser. You're such a good writer. Like, I know you have helped written like opening songs for shows. And I'm like, you're amazing. You're so good.
I mean, my selfish brain is like, do you want to sing something?
Oh, so on your Instagram, you have your horizontal singer?
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
What is that?
I started, I was having like a really bad flare that had gone on for about 3 weeks, and was feeling really, that thought of just like, oh, if I can't go out and like get onto a stage and, build this whole show, like, what am I doing? What can I do? And then as a joke, I took a little clip of myself. I was lying down, and I went like, tell them how I am defying gravity. And then just like flipped my phone up to show that I was horizontal. And that kind of started, I was like, oh yeah, I can sing horizontally. If I can't get out of bed, I can still sing. So I started posting little clips of myself, and mostly in the context of relating to things to do with chronic illness and disability, like taking songs and putting them in that context from bed.
What's your handle?
Yes.
I'm Ophira.c.
Okay, it's in the show notes. That's where it is. Go get it. That's great. Yeah. What are some artists that are inspiring you right now? Like, what are some other artists, or even, things, pieces of art? I don't know. What is inspiring you right now in where you are as an artist?
So I just got back from a show in Winnipeg that was by a theater company called Sick and Twisted. Mm-hmm. And I was brought in there to be part of this cabaret that was all deaf and disabled artists, and the show was called Sex and Sexability. So it was deaf and disabled artists creating work that had to do with sex, which is not something that I had ever seen before.
Yeah.
And I got really inspired by the idea of interdependency that was really in the disability community in general. There's a phrase, the future is interdependent, and that was really manifested through that show. I think we think a lot in the arts about independence of ownership, which again comes back to capitalism, the idea that we have a product that's ours that we can then sell. But that's not actually how humans work, and it's definitely not how art works. We all grow from each other. We all influence each other in different ways. We are interdependent. So at that show, like, I would show up and somebody who, like a biped, which is like a walking person, someone who's not in a wheelchair, would come and clean off the wheels of my wheelchair if they were wet and just make sure that I could get into the space. And then, I brought my wheelchair charger for someone else who had forgotten theirs. They fed us all. Everyone really cared for each other and each other's access needs in that way, which has been really inspiring me as sort of a model to move forward on, an interdependent model. And also, if we're talking inspiration, like, obviously Lizzo. Lizzo.
I love it.
There's that, and then Lizzo. Oh, because, like, Lizzo cannot be underestimated, though.
I know.
I mean, I feel like we can't have a conversation about, like, current inspiration in the
Without
artistic
mentioning Lizzo,
sphere.
yes, we'll put it in the show notes.
Have you heard of Lizzo? Yeah. What song?
Oh, I mean, right now, because it's very relevant to my show, so I've been listening to it, Soulmate has been coming up a lot.
Not my own soulmate. Nobody love me.
I don't know it.
Never gonna hold
I'm sorry, I only listen
down.
music from the 2000s, early 2000s.
Soulmate.
Yeah, no, it's good.
We
It's a
can't
good
use
album.
it because copyright
Whatever. She
infringement.
can
Oh,
come for us.
no.
She likes us.
I mean, we're being complimentary.
Go buy her album.
And while you're at it, also book a ticket to go see Literally Titanium.
Yes, what are the dates for the show?
Ooh, it runs from January 8th to 19th. There's 6 performances during that time frame. And just to note, so they're all relaxed, but we're doing 2 different types of relaxed performances. One sort of a typical one where the lights are up and audience members are encouraged to use like fidgets or any sort of sensory devices. And then another modified relaxed performance where the lights will go down, and that's a bit more suited to folks who maybe need a lower sensory environment. But throughout both of them, the door will remain open. You can come and go as you need to. And we also have our ASL interpreted performance on January 15th and 2 audio described performances, one January 18th and one January 19th.
And what space is it in at Factory?
It's the Factory Studio Theater, and the space is going to be adapted a bit so that there's a lot more ground level seating and folks can enter smoothly through the lobby to their seat.
Yeah, it's like very close to the ground level.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much for having us in your lovely home.
It's great.
It's
Thank
great.
you so much for coming here and bringing food. Oh my goodness, tacos.
Oh yeah, we had tacos from Como en Casa.
Uh-huh.
So please make sure to check that out while you're listening to this podcast. Bye. Radio Aluna Teatro is produced by Aluna Theater with support from the Metcalf Foundation, the Laidlaw Foundation, the City of Toronto, the Canada's Council for the Arts, the Ontario Arts Council, and the Toronto Arts Council.
Aluna Theater is Beatriz Pizano and Trevor Schwellnus, with Sue Balint and Gia Nahmens. Radio Aluna Theater is produced by Camila Diaz-Varela and Monica Garrido.
For more about Aluna Theater, visit us at alunatheater.ca. Follow at Aluna Theater on Twitter or Instagram, or like us on Facebook.
Follow and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and wherever you get your podcasts.